나아가다, 행진하다, 행군, 행진.
march, march, march.
민족의,
ethnic, ethnic, ethnic.
전통적으로,
traditionally, traditionally, traditionally.
관점,
perspective, perspective, perspective.
광범위한,
extensive, extensive, extensive.
측정하다,
measure, measure, measure.
연상, 관련, 협회.
association, association, association.
포착하다, 붙잡다.
capture, capture, capture.
관습에 얽매이지 않은, 색다른.
unconventional, unconventional, unconventional.
확장하다,
expand, expand, expand.
드러내다, 폭로하다, 노출시키다.
expose, expose, expose.
집에서, 국내에서.
at home, at home, at home.
탐방하다, 탐험하다.
explore, explore, explore. Though we are marching toward a more global society, various ethnic groups traditionally do things quite differently, and a fresh perspective is valuable in creating an open-minded child. Extensive multicultural experience makes kids more creative, measured by how many ideas they can come up with and by association skills, and allows them to capture unconventional ideas from other cultures to expand on their own ideas. As a parent, you should expose your children to other cultures as often as possible. If you can, travel with your child to other countries. Live there if possible. If neither is possible, there are lots of things you can do at home, such as exploring local festivals, borrowing library books about other cultures, and cooking foods from different cultures at your house.
동화, 갖게 되는 것, 흡수.
assimilation, assimilation, assimilation.
맥락,
context, context, context.
평평한,
flat, flat, flat.
일치하다, 맞다.
fit, fit, fit.
시도하다,
attempt, attempt, attempt.
구,
sphere, sphere, sphere.
해석하다,
interpret, interpret, interpret.
표면,
surface, surface, surface.
통합하다,
incorporate, incorporate, incorporate.
기존의,
pre-existing, pre-existing, pre-existing. Studies by Vosniado and Brewer illustrate fish as fish-style assimilation in the context of young children's thinking about the Earth. They worked with children who believed that the Earth is flat, because this fit their experiences, and attempted to help them understand that, in fact, it is spherical. When told it is round, children often pictured the Earth as a pancake rather than as a sphere. If they were then told that it is round like a sphere, they interpreted the new information about a spherical Earth within their flat Earth view by picturing a pancake-like flat surface inside or on top of a sphere, with humans standing on top of the pancake. The model of the Earth that they had developed, and that helped them explain how they could stand or walk upon its surface, did not fit the model of a spherical Earth. Like the story Fish is Fish, where a fish imagines everything on land to be fish-like, everything the children heard was incorporated into their pre-existing views.
좋은 뜻에서, 선의에서 하는.
Well-meaning. Well-meaning. Well-meaning.
확언하다.
Swear. Swear. Swear.
주의 깊은, 신중한.
Cautious. Cautious. Cautious.
자책하다.
Beat oneself up. Beat oneself up. Beat oneself up.
접근법.
Approach. Approach. Approach.
물결표를 위해 노력하다.
Strive for. Strive for. Strive for. Advice from a friend or family member is the most well-meaning of all. But it's not the best way to match yourself with a new habit. While hot yoga may have changed your friend's life, does that mean it's the right practice for you? We all have friends who swear their new habit of getting up at 4:30 a.m. changed their lives and that we have to do it. I don't doubt that getting up super early changes people's lives. Sometimes in good ways and sometimes not. But be cautious. You don't know if this habit will actually make your life better. Especially if it means you get less sleep. So yes, you can try what worked for your friend. But don't beat yourself up if your friend's answer doesn't change you in the same way. All of these approaches involve guessing and chance. And that's not a good way to strive for change in your life.
신체적으로.
Physically. Physically. Physically.
많은, 다수의.
A multitude of. A multitude of. A multitude of.
인종.
Race. Race. Race.
생물학적.
Biological. Biological. Biological.
혈통, 조상, 선조.
Ancestry. Ancestry. Ancestry.
특성.
Trait. Trait. Trait.
질감, 감촉, 결.
texture, texture, texture,
전형, 표본,
representative, representative, representative,
변할 수 있는,
variable, variable, variable,
분류하다,
classify, classify, classify,
구성, 물,
construction, construction, construction. Individual human beings differ from one another physically in a multitude of visible and invisible ways. If races, as most people define them, are real biological entities, then people of African ancestry would share a wide variety of traits while people of European ancestry would share a wide variety of different traits. But once we add traits that are less visible than skin coloration, hair texture, and the like, we find that the people we identify as the same race are less and less like one another and more like people we identify as different races. Add to this point that the physical features used to identify a person as a representative of some race, e.g. skin coloration, are continuously variable, so that one cannot say where brown skin becomes white skin. Although the physical differences themselves are real, the way we use physical differences to classify people into discrete races is a cultural construction.
실현,
Realization, realization, realization,
지배,
domination, domination, domination,
발달, 발전,
advance, advance, advance,
제조, 제조업,
manufacturing, manufacturing, manufacturing,
변화시키다,
transform, transform, transform,
자본주의적,
capitalistic, capitalistic, capitalistic,
기계화된,
mechanized, mechanized, mechanized,
대량으로,
in mass quantities, in mass quantities, in mass quantities,
시골에,
rural, rural, rural,
농업,
agriculture, agriculture, agriculture,
버리다,
abandon, abandon, abandon,
도시에,
urban, urban, urban,
직물 섬유,
textile, textile, textile,
동시에,
simultaneously, simultaneously, simultaneously,
행사하다, 휘두르다,
exert, exert, exert,
권력, 권한,
authority, authority, authority,
쓰레기 따위를 내버리다,
dump, dump, dump,
유해한,
hazardous, hazardous, hazardous,
부산물,
byproduct, byproduct, byproduct. The realization of human domination over the environment began in the late 1700s with the Industrial Revolution. Advances in manufacturing transformed societies and economies while producing significant impacts on the environment. American society became structured on multiple industries' capitalistic goals as the development of the steam engine led to the mechanized production of goods in mass quantities. Rural agricultural communities with economies based on handmade goods and agriculture were abandoned for life in urban cities with large factories based on an economy of industrialized manufacturing. Innovations in the production of textiles, iron, and steel provided increased profits to private companies. Simultaneously, those industries exerted authority over the environment and began dumping hazardous byproducts in public lands and waterways.
많은, 풍부한,
abundant, abundant, abundant.
평가하다, 재다,
measure, measure, measure.
의미를 추구하는,
meaning seeking, meaning seeking, meaning seeking.
사람들끼리의,
interpersonal, interpersonal, interpersonal.
평가하다,
evaluate, evaluate, evaluate.
지위,
standing, standing, standing.
높이다, 향상하다,
enhance, enhance, enhance.
자존감,
self-esteem, self-esteem, self-esteem.
무능한,
inadequate, inadequate, inadequate.
불행,
misfortune, misfortune, misfortune.
할 위험이 있다,
risk, risk, risk.
가치가 없는,
undeserving, undeserving, undeserving.
호의,
beneficence, beneficence, beneficence.
주목할 가치가 없는,
beneath one's notice, beneath one's notice, beneath one's notice.
열망, 동경,
longing, longing, longing.
재생산하다,
reproduce, reproduce, reproduce. Despite abundant warnings that we shouldn't measure ourselves against others, most of us still do. We're not only meaning-seeking creatures but social ones as well, constantly making interpersonal comparisons to evaluate ourselves, improve our standing, and enhance our self-esteem. But the problem with social comparison is that it often backfires. When comparing ourselves to someone who's doing better than we are, we often feel inadequate for not doing as well. This sometimes leads to what psychologists call malignant envy, the desire for someone to meet with misfortune, I wish she didn't have what she has. Also, comparing ourselves with someone who's doing worse than we are risks scorn. The feeling that others are something undeserving of our beneficence. She's beneath my notice. Then again, comparing ourselves to others can also lead to benign envy. The longing to reproduce someone else's accomplishments without wishing them ill. I wish I had what she has. Which has been shown in some circumstances to inspire and motivate us to increase our efforts in spite of a recent failure.
주로,
Primarily. Primarily. Primarily.
패러다임, 한 시대 사람들이 갖고 있는 어떤 대상에 대한 이론적인 틀이나 체계.
Paradigm. Paradigm. Paradigm.
부딪히다, 마주치다.
Encounter. Encounter. Encounter.
수용하다.
Accommodate. Accommodate. Accommodate.
사소한.
Minor. Minor. Minor.
어려운, 문제, 퍼즐.
Puzzle. Puzzle. Puzzle.
보수적인.
Conservative. Conservative. Conservative.
극히 중대한, 근본을 흔드는.
Earth-shattering. Earth-shattering. Earth-shattering.
확장하다, 연장하다.
Extend. Extend. Extend.
참신함, 신기함.
Novelty. Novelty. Novelty.
강조하다.
Stress. Stress. Stress.
의심하지 않고.
Unquestioningly. Unquestioningly. Unquestioningly.
결함이 있는.
Faulty. Faulty. Faulty.
상응하다, 일치하다.
Correspond. 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 What exactly does normal science involve? According to Thomas Kuhn, it is primarily a matter of puzzle solving. However successful a paradigm is, it will always encounter certain problems, phenomena which it cannot easily accommodate, or mismatches between the theory's predictions and the experimental facts. The job of the normal scientist is to try to eliminate these minor puzzles while making as few changes as possible to the paradigm. So normal science is a conservative activity. Its practitioners are not trying to make any earth-shattering discoveries, but rather just to develop and extend the existing paradigm. In Kuhn's words, normal science does not aim at novelties of fact or theory, and when successful finds none. Above all, Kuhn stressed that normal scientists are not trying to test the paradigm. On the contrary, they accept the paradigm unquestioningly, and conduct their research within the limits it sets. If a normal scientist gets an experimental result which corresponds with the paradigm, they will usually assume that their experimental technique is faulty, not that the paradigm is wrong.
이라는 인상을 주다.
come across as, come across as, come across as,
부하, 하위의 사람.
subordinate, subordinate, subordinate,
동조자, 지지자.
sympathizer, sympathizer, sympathizer,
속하다.
belong, belong, belong,
사건.
incident, incident, incident,
의장.
cover, cover, cover,
편안한.
cozy, cozy, cozy,
복도.
corridor, corridor, corridor,
도전, 힘든 일.
challenge, challenge, challenge,
논쟁.
controversy, controversy, controversy,
거리는.
reluctant, reluctant, reluctant,
헌신, 약속.
commitment, commitment, commitment,
항해하다.
sail, sail, sail. Around the boss, you will always find people coming across as friends, good subordinates, or even great sympathizers. But some do not truly belong. One day, an incident will blow their cover, and then you will know where they truly belong. When it is all cozy and safe, they will be there, loitering the corridors and fawning at the slightest opportunity. But as soon as difficulties arrive, they are the first to be found missing. And difficult times are the true test of blank. Dr. Martin Luther King said, "The ultimate test of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy." And so be careful of friends who are always eager to take from you but reluctant to give back even in their little ways. If they lack the commitment to sail with you through difficult weather, then they are more likely to abandon your ship when it stops.
기억, 기억력.
Memory, memory, memory.
조작하다, 운전하다, 작동하다.
Operate, operate, operate.
탈 것, 자동차.
Vehicle, vehicle, vehicle.
세포.
Cell, cell, cell.
주행하다.
Navigate, navigate, navigate.
목적지, 도착지.
Destination, destination, destination.
발생하다, 생기다, 일어나다.
Spring, spring, spring.
신경세포.
Neuron, neuron, neuron.
도로 표지.
Street sign, street sign, street sign.
에서 생기다.
originate from, originate from, originate from,
의식적인,
conscious, conscious, conscious,
인지,
awareness, awareness, awareness,
별개의,
separate, separate, separate,
정신의, 마음의,
mental, mental, mental,
인지의,
cognitive, cognitive, cognitive,
신경의, 신경계의,
neural, neural, neural,
활성화,
firing, firing, firing,
종합하다, 합성하다,
synthesize, synthesize, synthesize,
전반적인,
overall, overall, overall,
향상시키다,
improve, improve, improve,
기술, 속임수,
trick, trick, trick,
강화하다,
strengthen, strengthen, strengthen,
특정한, 어떤 정해진,
certain, certain, certain,
구성요소,
component, component, component,
요점,
bottom line, bottom line, bottom line,
보존하다, 유지하다,
preserve, preserve, preserve. When you're driving a car, your memory of how to operate the vehicle comes from one set of brain cells. The memory of how to navigate the streets to get to your destination springs from another set of neurons. The memory of driving rules and following street signs originates from another family of brain cells. And the thoughts and feelings you have about the driving experience itself, including any close calls with other cars, come from yet another group of cells. You do not have conscious awareness of all these separate mental plays and cognitive neural firings. Yet they somehow work together in beautiful harmony to synthesize your overall experience. In fact, we don't even know the real difference between how we remember and how we think. But we do know they are strongly intertwined. That is why truly improving memory can never simply be about using memory tricks. Although they can be helpful in strengthening certain components of memory. Here's the bottom line. To improve and preserve memory at the cognitive level, you have to blank.
철학자,
Philosopher, philosopher, philosopher.
순전히, 순수하게,
Purely, purely, purely.
논리적인,
Logical, logical, logical.
예를 들면,
To illustrate, to illustrate, to illustrate.
떠올리다, 상기하다,
recall, recall, recall,
다양한,
diverse, diverse, diverse,
현상,
phenomenon, phenomenon, phenomenon,
중력,
gravity, gravity, gravity,
물체,
body, body, body,
의 물결표를 행사하다,
exert tilde on, exert tilde on, exert tilde on,
중력,
gravitational attraction, gravitational attraction, gravitational attraction,
기본의, 근본적인,
fundamental, fundamental, fundamental,
원리,
principle, principle, principle,
교훈,
moral, moral, moral,
일반화되다,
generalize, generalize, generalize,
을 이용하다,
make use of, make use of, make use of. According to many philosophers, there is a purely logical reason why science will never be able to explain everything. For in order to explain something, whatever it is, we need to invoke something else. But what explains the second thing? To illustrate, recall that Newton explained a diverse range of phenomena using his law of gravity. But what explains the law of gravity itself? If someone asks why all bodies exert a gravitational attraction on each other, what should we tell them? Newton had no answer to this question. In Newtonian science, the law of gravity was a fundamental principle. It explained other things, but could not itself be explained. The moral generalizes. However much the science of the future can explain, the explanations it gives will have to make use of certain fundamental laws and principles. Since nothing can explain itself, it follows that at least some of these laws and principles
웃음,
laughter, laughter, laughter,
조사하다,
examine, examine, examine,
빈도,
frequency, frequency, frequency,
짝을 이루다,
match, match, match,
짝진 것에, 한 쌍,
pair, pair, pair,
모르는 사람,
stranger, stranger, stranger,
익살스러운,
humorous, humorous, humorous,
거의,
nearly, nearly, nearly,
약간,
slightly, slightly, slightly,
에 이바지하다,
serve, serve, serve,
유대,
bond, bond, bond,
다르다,
differ, differ, differ,
평가,
rating, rating, rating,
불안감,
anxiousness, anxiousness, anxiousness,
의미하다,
imply, imply, imply. In one example of the important role of laughter in social contexts, Devereux and Ginsberg examined frequency of laughter in matched pairs of strangers or friends who watched a humorous video together compared to those who watched it alone. The time individuals spent laughing was nearly twice as frequent in pairs as when alone. Frequency of laughing was only slightly shorter for friends than strangers. According to Devereux and Ginsberg, laughing with strangers served to create a social bond that made each person in the pair feel comfortable. This explanation is supported by the fact that in their stranger condition, when one person laughed, the other was likely to laugh as well. Interestingly, the three social conditions, alone, paired with a stranger, or paired with a friend, did not differ in their ratings of funniness of the video or of feelings of happiness or anxiousness. This finding implies that their frequency of laughter was not because we find things funnier when we are with others, but instead we blank.
디지털 원주민,
Digital native, digital native, digital native,
에 몰입한,
immersed in, immersed in, immersed in,
가지다,
possess, possess, possess,
소질, 재능,
aptitude, aptitude, aptitude,
활용하다,
utilize, utilize, utilize,
기기,
device, device, device,
기술 활용 능력,
technological literacy, technological literacy, technological literacy,
역학, 기계학,
mechanics, mechanics, mechanics,
기본적인, 본질적인,
elemental, elemental, elemental,
수명,
lifespan, lifespan, lifespan,
할 수 있게 하다,
empower, empower, empower,
유용 쓸모가 있음,
utility, utility, utility,
극대화하다,
maximize, maximize, maximize. Today's digital natives have grown up immersed in digital technologies and possess the technical aptitude to utilize the powers of their devices fully. But although they know which apps to use or which websites to visit, they do not necessarily understand the workings behind the touch screen. People need technological literacy if they are to understand machines' mechanics and uses. In much the same way as factory workers 100 years ago needed to understand the basic structures of engines, we need to understand the elemental principles behind our devices. The lifespan of devices depends on the quality of software operating them as well as the structure of hardware. This empowers us to deploy software and hardware to their fullest utility, maximizing our powers to achieve and create.
대략,
Roughly. Roughly. Roughly.
을 지칭하다.
Refer to. Refer to. Refer to.
학자,
Scholar. Scholar. Scholar.
인류학자,
Anthropologist. Anthropologist. Anthropologist.
사회학자,
Sociologist. Sociologist. Sociologist.
복잡한,
Complicated. Complicated. Complicated.
상황 파악,
Picture. Picture. Picture.
상호 의존적인, 서로 의존하는,
Interdependent. Interdependent. Interdependent.
상징,
Symbol. Symbol. Symbol.
합리주의자,
Rationalist. Rationalist. Rationalist.
높이 평가하다, 존중하다,
Prize. Prize. Prize.
결론을 내리다,
Conclude. Conclude. Conclude.
원시적인,
Primitive. Primitive. Primitive.
생각의 틀,
Frame. Frame. Frame.
은유,
Metaphor. Metaphor. Metaphor.
형성하다,
Shape. Shape. Shape.
계산,
Calculation. 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 The ancient Greeks used to describe two very different ways of thinking: logos and mythos. Logos roughly referred to the world of the logical, the empirical, the scientific. Mythos referred to the world of dreams, storytelling and symbols. Like many rationalists today, some philosophers of Greece prized logos and looked down at mythos. Logic and reason, they concluded, make us modern. Storytelling and myth-making are primitive. But lots of scholars then and now, including many anthropologists, sociologists and philosophers today, see a more complicated picture, where mythos and logos are intertwined and interdependent. Science itself, according to this view, relies on stories. The frames and metaphors we use to understand the world shape the scientific discoveries we make. They even shape what we see. When our frames and metaphors change, the world itself is transformed. The Copernican revolution involved more than just scientific calculation. It involved a new story about the place of Earth in the universe.
의심, 의혹,
Doubt. Doubt. Doubt.
문학의,
Literary. Literary. Literary.
압도적인,
Overwhelming. Overwhelming. Overwhelming.
충분히,
Adequately. Adequately. Adequately.
설명하다, 예증하다,
Illustrate. Illustrate. Illustrate.
줄거리,
Plot. Plot. Plot.
몰입, 몰두,
Involvement. Involvement. Involvement.
이야기, 사태 따위를 전개하다,
Unfold. Unfold. Unfold.
복잡한,
Complex. Complex. Complex.
대조적인, 대비되는,
Contrasting. Contrasting. Contrasting.
분명한,
Obvious. Obvious. Obvious.
단락,
Passage. Passage. Passage.
할 가능성이 더 크다,
Have a greater chance of. Have a greater chance of. Have a greater chance of.
단조로움,
Monotony. Monotony. Monotony.
묘미, 특징,
Flavor. Flavor. Flavor.
토막, 덩어리,
Chunk. Chunk. Chunk.
만족감,
Satisfaction. Satisfaction. Satisfaction.
구성, 양식,
Pattern. 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 There is no doubt that the length of some literary works is overwhelming. Reading or translating a work in class, hour after hour, week after week, can be such a boring experience that many students never want to open a foreign language book again. B. Extracts provide one type of solution. The advantages are obvious. Reading a series of passages from different works produces more variety in the classroom, so that the teacher has a greater chance of avoiding monotony, while still giving learners a taste at least of an author's special flavor. C. On the other hand, a student who is only exposed to bite-sized chunks will never have the satisfaction of knowing the overall pattern of a book, which is after all the satisfaction most of us seek when we read something in our own language. A. Moreover, there are some literary features that cannot be adequately illustrated by a short excerpt. The development of plot or character, for instance, with the gradual involvement of the reader that this implies, or the unfolding of a complex theme through the juxtaposition of contrasting views.
혁명적인,
Revolutionary. Revolutionary. Revolutionary.
에 관한,
Concerning. Concerning. concerning,
특수 상대성 이론,
special theory of relativity, special theory of relativity, special theory of relativity,
논문,
paper, paper, paper,
출현,
advent, advent, advent,
전기 간행물,
periodical, periodical, periodical,
내주다, 양도하다,
yield, yield, yield,
학술지,
journal, journal, journal,
완전히,
altogether, altogether, altogether,
세우다, 확립하다,
establish, establish, establish,
명성,
reputation, reputation, reputation,
기여, 공헌,
contribution, contribution, contribution,
취급, 대우,
treatment, treatment, treatment,
지위, 상태,
status, status, status,
에 달려있다,
depend on, depend on, depend on,
출간,
publication, publication, publication. For instance, the revolutionary ideas that earned Einstein his Nobel Prize, concerning the special theory of relativity and the photoelectric effect, appeared as papers in the Annalen der Physik. In the early stages of modern science, scientists communicated their creative ideas largely by publishing books. This modus operandi is illustrated not only by Newton's Principia, but also by Copernicus on the revolutions of the heavenly spheres, Kepler's The Harmonies of the World, and Galileo's dialogues concerning the two new sciences. With the advent of scientific periodicals, such as the Transactions of the Royal Society of London, books gradually yielded ground to the technical journal article as the chief form of scientific communication. Of course, books were not abandoned altogether, as Darwin's Origin of Species shows. Even so, it eventually became possible for scientists to establish a reputation for their creative contributions without publishing a single book-length treatment of their ideas. His status as one of the greatest scientists of all time does not depend on the publication of a single book.
고정된,
Fixed, fixed, fixed,
생산율,
production rate, production rate, production rate,
조업도,
production level, production level, production level,
유연하지 못한,
inflexible, inflexible, inflexible,
비탄력적인,
inelastic, inelastic, inelastic,
할 가치가 있다,
it is worth ing, it is worth ing, it is worth ing,
수익, 수익,
revenue, revenue, revenue,
배급, 배포,
distribution, distribution, distribution. Although sport clubs and leagues may have a fixed supply schedule, it is possible to increase the number of consumers who watch. A supply schedule refers to the ability of a business to change their production rates to meet the demand of consumers. Some businesses are able to increase their production level quickly in order to meet increased demand. However, sporting clubs have a fixed, or inflexible, inelastic, production capacity. They have what is known as a fixed supply schedule. It is worth noting that this is not the case for sales of clothing, equipment, memberships and memorabilia. But clubs and teams can only play a certain number of times during their season. If fans and members are unable to get into a venue, that revenue is lost forever. For example, the supply of a sport product can be increased by providing more seats, changing the venue, extending the playing season, or even through new television, radio or internet distribution.
지표,
Indicator, indicator, indicator.
지인, 아는 사람,
Acquaintance, acquaintance, acquaintance.
위반하다, 침범하다,
Violate, violate, violate.
가득 찬,
Packed, packed, packed.
채널, 정보의 전달 경로,
Channel, channel, channel.
을 상쇄하다, 을 보상하다,
Compensate for, compensate for, compensate for.
계속적인,
Constant, constant, constant. Distance is a reliable indicator of the relationship between two people. Strangers stand further apart than do acquaintances. Acquaintances stand further apart than friends. And friends stand further apart than romantic partners. Sometimes, of course, these rules are violated. Recall the last time you rode 20 stories in an elevator packed with total strangers. The sardine-like experience no doubt made the situation a bit uncomfortable. With your physical space violated, you may have tried to create psychological space by avoiding eye contact, focusing instead on the elevator buttons. By reducing closeness in one nonverbal channel, eye contact, one can compensate for unwanted closeness in another channel, proximity. Similarly, if you are talking with someone who is seated several feet away at a large table, you are likely to maintain constant eye contact, something you might feel uncomfortable doing if you were standing next to each other. Physical distance between people is A. by relationship status. But when the distance is not appropriate, people B. their nonverbal communication to establish a comfortable psychological distance.